to testimonies. The last time I was up here, I spoke about why it's good to give it, what Scripture says about telling your story. And it's a good thing to tell your story about Jesus and how he affected your life to others, because it inspires them, especially you young fellas. It's good to start learning this stuff now. But today, I'm not going to say all the good things because we know them. I'm going to today mention what I'll consider the bad things that are in my head that tell me I can't come up here and I can't do this. And one of them is going to say, well, I'm not very important. I'm just Scott that, lives in the neighborhood, and why does anybody want to hear my story? Well, let me tell you, in 1 Corinthians 12:14, it says that you are important. And it says, and I'm not going to say this word for word because I'd rather say it, and I mean the Scripture, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Do you think the arm is important as your eyes? Absolutely. How about the hair on your head, which I don't have much? Everything on the body is important. And everything in the body of the church, in the body of this room, is important. So that means every man, every boy, everyone in this room is important. So don't tell yourself I'm not important enough to go up there. Another one is, you got to forgive me here, we're missing some lights and I don't see very well. So I don't know enough. Well, okay. Maybe you're brand new to your faith and you don't know enough. That's not a reason not to come up. Do you know your story? Well, I hope you do. So all you do is come up and tell your story. You don't have to know a lot about Christ, and you don't have to know a lot about Scripture. That's why you're here. You're here to learn, and you need to share. I don't know God. I can't go up there. I don't know him yet. I'm sitting here learning, so I'm going to wait a year or two until I really become versatile. I'm really knowledgeable, and then I'll do it. No. I'll tell you what. Whoever does not love does not know God. Okay? Every man here, I'm going to say, has the ability to love, or you would not be here. So if you love, and if you can share that love with others, you already know God because he is love. And you're already starting that relationship with him, whether you know it or not. It's love. It starts with love. So remember that. I'm not good enough. Well, I'm a misfit. Aren't we all misfits somewhere or another? Maybe not in here. We should not feel like a misfit in here no matter where you're at in your life, in your journey, in your spirit. You are not a misfit. I'll tell you what, God likes to use misfits. What about Moses? For you young boys, I don't know if you know it or not, but Moses stuttered a little bit. Moses could not speak properly, and I think he said to God 5 times, find somebody else. I can't do this. And God said, no, you're going to do it. I don't care if you can't speak. I'll give you someone to speak for you. God will take care of you, even if you're a misfit or you think you're a misfit. So that was Moses. How about Peter? Peter denied Christ 3 times, and God still used him. Okay? So today, like I said, we're going to be introducing Tony Benicke. There you go, brother. Oh, you got one? Okay.
Everybody can hear me okay? So good morning, brothers. My 2 biggest fears are snakes and public speaking. So bear with me just a little bit. I'd always been a believer but not a follower. And looking back, God has protected me along the way. In preparing this testimony, I remembered a lot of things. When I was 3, I was actually drowning in a pool, in a above ground pool, and I was under the water, and I could see my mom in the pool until she turned around and realized I was under the water and pulled me out. When I was 9, we were in a head-on collision in my dad's truck in the front of the cab. hit by a drunk driver, walked away from it, no harm done. When my wife was pregnant with our second child, we were in an automobile accident, and we walked away from that also. So I feel like God has been protecting me all the way up to this point. But my testimony, it's about a term called passivity. And the definition of passivity, and I looked it up, it's the acceptance of what happens without active response or resistance. And if you remember, we had, with us as men, we deal with the term toxic masculinity and being too macho, and we have to figure out that balance in our friendships and our marriages of when not to stand up, when not to be too masculine, when not to pound our chest. And we've got to find that balance. So when we were here several months ago, we had a guest speaker here that posed a question about passivity, and this is the first time I've heard this term. So it helped me explain how I lived my life up to this point. And he posed the question, and some of you that were here might remember it. He asked the question, what was the first sin? Was it really the bite of the apple by Eve? Or was it Adam not stepping up and preventing Eve from biting the apple? Which was it, the bite of the apple or the man not stepping up and preventing it? So I want to jump into a scenario before I get into the testimony of what happened. I want to explain an example of passivity in my life, and that's what I've been guilty of. That's been my sin. You heard the story about my dad teaching me everything. So when my son was 10, I taught him how to mow the grass. And we got done mowing the grass, and that's what we do. We teach our kids. Wife came home, saw that my son was mowing the grass. He went and told her how proud he was that he mowed the grass. She told him how proud. And then when he was in the house, out of earshot, I got accused of child slavery. And it's funny, but, because that's why we have kids, for the cheap labor. But the anger and the vile that came out of her, accusing me of child slavery and having him do hard work, it was scary. And being that I was passive, I had a decision to make. Do I keep teaching him every week and go through this confrontation that's probably going to escalate every week? Or do I just turn my back and not teach him to mow the grass? You can probably figure what I did. And long story short, I just taught my son at 30 years old how to mow the grass on his new house. So you heard my bio. I decided not to go into professional baseball, which took me on a path to meet my wife. I met her in 1987, got married in 1991. She was Catholic, and I was not of any denomination. So in order to marry in a Catholic church, you have to go through the classes. And she was upset that she had to go through the classes with me because she was Catholic. So that's red flag number one. But in that class, I learned a lot. I learned about the totem pole hierarchy, which can't really say that nowadays, the politically correctness. But the totem pole is God, spouse, children, in that order and balance. And so our first year of marriage, we didn't have any of that. We had no church, and we had no God. We just had football on Sunday. And I thought I figured it out for all of us men, find a woman that loves sports and everything will be fine, but it's actually not true. So we had 2 kids, boy and a girl, and when we had the second child, the totem pole changed. It now became kids, dogs, God down here, and then about a foot under the dirt was spouse. That was the new hierarchy of the marriage. My fault, because I was passive. I never implemented church. I never took a stand. I never stood up and said, hey, we're going to do this. For me, it was as long as we could watch football on Sunday and Monday nights and Thursdays, and we're good. And even baseball season. So money was tight. I was the only one working. We had the 2 kids. She wanted to stay home. So I started mowing lawns on the weekends to make extra money. And that actually turned into a full-scale landscaping business. I was making more money doing that than my full-time job. So I was making enough, and I quit my corporate job, bought a brand new house, 2 new cars, a new truck. We had a dog, had a stay-at-home wife. So for me, I was the man. I was living the dream. I had a thriving business, and that's what life was all about. But no church, no God, and at this point, I really had no real friends. So the kids are now in school, and she actually gets a teaching job. So now she's with them all the time. And she's earning a full paycheck now. So the next thing that happens is she wants to keep her paycheck, doesn't want to put it into the family budget. Okay, so what do we do as a man in the marriage? Do we stand up? So I stood up. So, that needs to be part of the budget. And then she kind of played the victim of, well, my mom was abused and she had to give up her paychecks to her mom, so she was trying to justify why she should keep her paychecks, which it made absolutely no sense. And because it was irrational discussions, we couldn't have arguments. Being passive, I turned my head. I was making enough with the business. There was enough money in there. It was all about the money. I just let it go, and I didn't pay attention. And the problems I ran into being a man, it was like if I was making the money, I was to do all the man things, but being a man, I wasn't allowed to make decisions. And it was just a cycle of when to stand up, when not to stand up. If you stand up, you're too masculine. If you don't stand up, you're a wuss. And it was just a cycle. And then it also allowed her, she wasn't an alpha male or alpha female, but with my passivity, it allowed her to emasculate me, using sex as a tool. So it was used to weaponize or reward or barter, whichever. So everything that I just explained to all of you, this went on for 20 years, this life. No church, no God, I had no real friends. I had colleagues, I had family, that everybody liked me, but I had no true, real friends to go to. So I slowly became depressed, fatigued, and so from 1991 we got married, and this is all the way to 2015. I had actually hit my rock bottom. I was mentally and physically exhausted. I couldn't work any more hours. I couldn't get any more jobs. I was just physically exhausted. And so remember, I had no church, no God, no real friends. I was doing it all on my own. As men, we try to do everything on our own. So early of 2015, of April, I disappeared without a trace. I didn't come home. I left on a Saturday morning, didn't come home. So apparently everybody was looking for me. I was on the news as a missing person. And they found me 3 days later. I opened my eyes up, and I was being dragged by a police officer on my back. And I was being dragged on the dirt away from my truck. And I could see my truck. It was sitting on top of an APS electric transformer box. And it was in a residential neighborhood that was undeveloped. So luckily, the electricity was off, by the grace of God, protecting me. So that was the first time I opened my eyes from when I left Saturday. I see the police officer dragging me away from the truck. Closed my eyes. The next thing I remembered, I'm in the helicopter, being airlifted to the hospital. All I can see is the pilot doing the stick to land the helicopter. Closed my eyes, opened my eyes up again, and I'm in the hospital bed. And I'm laying there, I have a decatheter, and I can't feel my legs. So in my mind, I'm paralyzed from the waist down. And I'm being bombarded with questions. Your name, year, president, where were you, what happened, all these things going through me. So as I got my bearings back, I knew what happened, but once I figured it out and deflecting the questions, they were asking me about my missing truck keys. My truck keys were not in the ignition of the truck, they weren't in my pocket, and they weren't on the ground when the police officer found me. So when I got that information, I knew it made me easier to deflect the questioning so I can get out of there. Because I knew what would happen if I told them. So I got home, and I'm back to my normal life, loveless marriage, and thriving business, great kids, but I was still thinking about what had happened, and the reason for my disappearance, and this gets harder to say every time because my life is so good right now, but I actually tried to take my own life. It was a failed suicide attempt. I actually was that exhausted that I felt there was no other option than to just get out of here. So I was thinking about that. Why am I still here? What's my purpose? I had no purpose. Was I here to be at my son's wedding that was coming up in 2 months? I did this 2 months before my son's wedding. Was I here to walk my daughter down the aisle someday? I didn't know. And I had nobody to turn to. But the mystery of the truck keys, that actually is a mystery. I don't know what happened to the keys. Grace of God, I don't know. So I actually asked God a question. I looked up there and I asked him, because I've seen people do it. And I asked him, why did I fail at attempting to take my own life? why did I fail? And I didn't get an answer. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't see an image, nothing. So I just figured I had to figure it out, and I would just do what I was doing. And I started gaining weight. And I went to the doctor every year, and I stepped on the scale, and I saw the number that I never thought I would see. And it said 300. I actually weighed 300 pounds. And at this time, the dynamics of our household is my son and his new wife were living with us. So we had that dynamic going on. And they were coming home in the evening one night twice, and they were red-faced and sweaty and tired. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Are you having sex in the car out in the driveway before you come in? You know, and they're laughing. They're like, no, we're doing Orange Theory. I'm like, what's Orange Theory? I never heard of it. And I looked into it, and I tried it out, and I got addicted. And you can go to slide 1. I gave myself a goal, and this was actually my first introduction to something called community. This was a community-based workout where you went to a class with other people with the same goals, same purpose, doing the same type of workout, but you're at your own fitness level. And you can see the difference. It took me 2 years, but I lost 105 pounds, dropped down to 195. But if you notice my after picture, how unhappy I look. You'd think you'd be pretty happy dropping that much weight. My wife never congratulated me on losing the weight. She would actually get mad that I was losing the weight quickly, mad when I got compliments, people hadn't seen me. And so being passive, I was dealing with that and dealing with the compliments and how to balance everything. And at this point, I still have no church, no God, and no real friends. And you can just see it on my face. I look miserable. So 1 year later, my wife befriends a fitness coach of all people. And this is a person, they became real best friends. This is a man-hating single mom of 3 young kids. My son and daughter moved out, or son and daughter-in-law moved out, and we moved her kids and her and her 3 kids into our house. And the reason is she was in an abusive relationship with her boyfriend. So we went, when the boyfriend went to work, we actually went in, took her out of the house, took her furniture out, brought it to our house. And then when he came home, obviously he was pretty livid. And he was ex-military and PTSD. And so he was looking for her, bombing everybody's phones and going to everybody's houses. But he never once, knowing that my wife was her best friend, he never once showed up at my house, never once called my phone, never waited outside my garage. And I was prepared for it. He would have took me down, but I was prepared. So why did he never come to my house? Grace of God. So when this all happened, it took only 5 months. We decided to get a divorce. That's how fast it happened. And with that night that we decided we were going to get a divorce, that was the best night's sleep I'd had in 20 years. It was actually a good thing. I decided, when we decided we had to sell the house, and I just said, just take everything. And she took everything. I was left with the couch, a worn-out recliner, a small TV, and the refrigerator in the garage. There was nothing else left in the house, no bed to sleep on, the echo, and I had never been happier. And that's when I realized stuff was just stuff. Possessions mean absolutely nothing. And still at this point, I had no church, no God, and no real friends. So a month goes by, I got 2 more weeks before I have to leave the house. And of course, I'm getting lonely. I'm a single guy now. And we all come up with brilliant ideas as men, always. And I know somebody's thinking something back there, and don't do that. I decided to I'm going to dabble in the online dating, because they have the algorithm that matches you up with the perfect mate, right? Good idea, right? Okay, so I've made the decision to do that. I've never done it. Getting ready to, just trying to pick which platform to go on. And this was June 28th of 2021 at 3:12 p.m. I get my phone dings, and it's a text message. Can't see the name. It's nobody in my contacts. No caller ID. It's just a message. This text message changed my life. This text message is why I'm here today. It actually changed the direction of my life. It changed the trajectory of my life. And I would actually go as far as saying it actually saved my life. So I'm actually going to read you the text message on my phone that I got that day. Hi, this is Tammy, your sister Lori's BFF. I wonder if you have a guy that can look at my drip timer controller. It looks great. I reset it. Still won't turn on the valves. Valves work because I can manually open the water. And then it spells out the words help in capital letters and then the emoji pray sign. The significance of this text is I've known Tammy since I was 5, and I'm 55. This is my sister's BFF. And I've maybe seen her 3 times in the last 20 years. She used to just show up at family functions. But I knew of each other, but didn't know each other. And the secret that I was going to take to my grave was I actually had this tiny crush on Tammy since I was 5, but never acted on it. It was just one of those things, just nothing, never acted. And so I got distracted by this, and I never went into the online dating service because I was trying to solve this timer issue. Now, of course, we guys all know exactly what to say to respond because we know what words to say. So my response was, that guy would be me. Real simple. But anyway, so I solved the problem. This was a business transaction. She was going to leave me the money, but I kind of wanted to see her. So I said, hey, we'll meet on a different day until I can pick up the money and then just see her. So that Saturday, I went and got the money and saw her. Hadn't seen her in years. And it was just an immediate friendship. We had so much in common, so much we knew of each other, but we didn't know anything about each other. And then we just started just talking and catching up and talking about the kids. And all of a sudden, we both had to be somewhere else. So we thought, I'll come back on Monday and we'll catch up. I was at her kitchen table for 4.5 hours and just catching up and talking about stuff and telling my story. She's telling me her story. And I'm actually having a rational conversation with a woman, which I'd never had in 30-some years. And then I was seeing what a strong Christian woman is like, and I've heard everybody say that, a strong Christian woman. I didn't know what that meant until I met her. And I saw how strong a faith she was in, and she was telling me about CCV and how it saved her life 15 years ago. And so she invited me to try that out, and I did, and I got addicted to the church. And then she's like, well, I'm in this group. Why don't you come check it out? And it's Mike and Lily's group. So I go to Mike and Lily's group, and I got addicted to that. And of course, Mike says, hey, I got this iron sharpens iron. So I went here 10 months ago, and I got addicted to that. So now, Tammy and I are going on these long adventures, planning events, trying new foods and restaurants, hiking, just building a true friendship biblically. And then now I have church, and I have real friends, but I still don't have God yet. That's the only part that's missing in my life. So we always met an hour before our group to chat, have a little quick meal, and then go to the group. She was running late. We had to meet real quick, go to Mike's house, and it was about the crucifixion. And I'm new to this, and I didn't know much about it. So we had one of the mothers there that said that was my son up there, I would have pulled him off the cross. Obviously, that would have changed everything if he was pulled off. So we go back to her house, and we're talking about our budgets. And then she just tells me this really dark story out of nowhere. It had absolutely nothing to do with what we were talking about. And it was a very dark story in her life. It was something where she had to pay X number of dollars to get rid of her ex-husband. And she just went into a real dark prayer, just a bad part in her life. And luckily, nothing happened because 2 days later, she got a job opportunity in addition to her career. It actually paid her back that money. And it was at that point that I got my answer from God. God answered me through my friend Tammy. And the answer was, I actually didn't fail at trying to take my own life. God didn't let me succeed. I tried to alter the plan he had for me, and he didn't let me. If we can go to slide 2. And it was at this very moment that I decided I had to surrender to God and get baptized. And that was September 18th of last year. This is now my spiritual birthday. And you can just see the joy and the happiness of that process.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And so we can go ahead and go to slide 3. In conclusion, along with my best friend Tammy, I I've been on two mission trips to Mexico. I had just gotten my passport. I'd never had a passport. We attend the church weekly. We belong to one neighborhood group together, and then I belong to one by myself. And I attend Iron Sharpens Iron weekly, which is actually my favorite time of the week. And I have also implemented a charity giving program at Christmas for my kids that I'm starting, a legacy every year that I give them a task to do with giving money to whoever needs it. And I just started that. And you can see the joy on my face, the smile. And that's just pure joy and happiness. But lastly, man, there is hope, and it's never too late. It's never too late. Thank you.
How's it going? I'm Danny Tellez with Iron Sharpens Iron Phoenix, and today I wanted to take a couple of minutes and talk to you about testimonies. From time to time, we may ask you if you could share your story. Other times, we get guys asking us, how do I share my story? We have a few basic guidelines that we'd like to share with you, so let's get started. First off, what's a testimony? Well, a testimony is a public account of what God is doing in your life. What's that look like? Well, it could be something He's done in your life. It could be something He's teaching you right now, or it could be something that He's done or taught you in your past. The Bible says that we are called to be witnesses of Jesus, to show the world what God can do. That's where your testimony comes in. There's two types of testimonies. One, how you came to Christ, and two, what God is teaching you. So what's that look like? Well, your life testimony goes a little bit like this. How was your life before Christ? How did you come to know Christ? And what happened since then? Your life experience testimony is a little bit different, and it goes like this. What are you experiencing right now? What's going on in your life right now? How has God helped you? How do you feel? In what way has God helped you through this? And my favorite, what Bible verse has God used to speak to you? And always end your testimony with something that you've learned. It doesn't matter. The reason you're sharing your story is because God did something for you. Tell us what that is. The biggest tip I can give you on giving a testimony is keep it short, 3 to 5 minutes, and keep it simple. And that's it. Hopefully you got something from this little tutorial, and hopefully you share your story with Iron Sharpens Iron soon.